Matokeo ya marudio ya uchaguzi yakisubiriwa kutangazwa rasmi, wadau wa upinzani NASA ama ukipenda NRM.
Okay, so I apologize. What was supposed to be on air is James Orengo basically saying, could we listen in, okay?
Taendelea kwa njia ambayo Uhuru hajajua. Na hiyo si mchezo. Kwa sababu baba akisema fire, this is the notice. Wewe Uhuru utajipikia kura, utajiapisha, utakimbia, utafanya kila kitu. Lakini wananchi wa Kenya tumesema tutatamaniwa na mtu kama wewe. Uhuru akitumia uchaguzi huu ya tarehe 26 kujigamba ya kwamba yeye ni rais, sisi kama watu wa NASA tutatumia ile matokeo ya tarehe 8. Kwa sababu tarehe 8 wakifungua 7 ni Raila Amolo Odinga ndiye alishinda. Sasa hii kura ya upuzi wapeleke mbali hatutaki.
So allow me to reintroduce my panelist, Odoyo Widi, who's a political analyst, and Ambrose Sweda, who's a lawyer as well in studio, as a Jubilee strategist. Allow me to begin with you, because I need you to explain that. What exactly does Orengo mean that you will use the figures of August 8th to declare Raila the president?
I have not spoken to him, but he's saying he will use those figures to declare Raila the president. That's what you have heard. That is what I have also heard.
Okay.
So we can deal with it, leave it there as such. You know, most of these things people say, like I listened to William Ruto speak, and he talks things without even giving it a thought, that some militia was used somewhere. A militia is an organized group that has a commander. If a vice president of a nation like Kenya knows about some militia somewhere in Kenya, I'm sure the army would be heading there. Somebody must speak responsibly as a responsible leader.
Okay, Weda.
Yeah. I had put one time on my Facebook that the option only left for NASA that they'll try to do is they'll try to swear in Honorable Raila when President Uhuru is being sworn in. But among the avalanche of predictions and thoughts, they said there'll be no elections on 26th of this month. Baba said it and repeated. Now, there have been elections, except in Luo Nyanza. Okay? And the way it is going within the Constitution, IEBC will obviously, in the next few days, declare President Uhuru the winner. And then they have 7 days to lodge a petition. If they lodge, we have another 14 days for Maraga and his team to make a decision. If they tell us to go back for election, again, we have another 60 days to go for election. Okay. If they throw out the petition, President Uhuru will go in for swearing. And some of us are saying, once we are cleared by the Supreme Court, if at all somebody goes to the Supreme Court, then we proceed with the swearing. After the swearing, if anybody else also declares himself president or NRM or rebel leader or whatever, those will be some of the things in the entry of the freshly sworn-in president. So he will deal with them.
No.
And the dealing includes crashing it, sitting down with the rebel leader, Honorable Raila Odinga, and saying, my brother, the cake is big enough, please come. We'll cut for you some ice on the cake. So there's no worry. For now, when Orengo is making Orengo will still talk about NASA.
Okay.
Baba had already folded NASA and said NASA is from 27th onwards, there's no NASA. Now we have NRM. Honorable Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka and his own MOU, that has now been thrown under the bus.
Forget about Kalonzo Musyoka.
Orengo is still at the back with Mudama talking about the history. I think they also don't know that Baba has moved on. So what they are doing, if the Supreme Court does not come to their rescue for any reason, then I can tell you that thing they are talking about, whether they swear themselves, will be just part of the entry President Uhuru will have to deal with.
Ambrose, I need to help you somewhere. When Raila Odinga said there will be no election on 26th, he meant it, and there is no election. What you have seen is what is called null and void. When something is null and void, it is like it does not exist. Like, we can't say there was election on August 8th.
Cummings,
it was
there's
nullified.
a whole team at the Bomas of Kenya verifying results. You have the chairman.
That is the same thing that happened on 8th of August. And it was null and void. Everything was under the train. The election you are talking about on 26 is also null and void. You know, Raila Odinga never just talks. He is not somebody who will come and say a country has militia and you can't see them anywhere. He can't react to them. He can only say. You know, you are not going to get everything that you say is right and everything that somebody else says is wrong. That is not going to be accepted anywhere. You wake up, tell us that there's a voter turnout of 7.5 million, nothing to back it, no papers, no electronics to back it, and we are supposed to believe you. Let me tell you also that there is no election on 26. Whatever you purport to have been election is null and void. Any election that was supposed to happen in Kenya is supposed to go smoothly in 290 constituencies.
Okay.
As we speak now, nothing like that has happened in Kenya. But I have also noticed what is going to happen. When you see Chebukati has already changed the formula, that we are now calculating the voter turnout using the election in less than 290 constituencies as the denominator, then you know they are trying to leave out the 4 counties that have not taken the elections. That is not going to work. There's no constitution like that in Kenya. The one we have recognizes 290 constituency. Okay. Because if they know that the election in those 4 counties was just postponed, they would still use the total of 19.5 million to calculate the percentage of voter turnout.
Now, let me educate some
I am ready to learn.
Of the law. The Constitution requires that when you are holding elections, you hold elections in the 290 constituencies.
Yes.
The underlying reasoning behind that is that no party arranges so that another party's stronghold are left out. That's why it was said every constituency. Now, number 2, voting is not mandatory. So the IEBC is obliged, mandated to ensure that they carry the plain ballot papers, carry voting materials to every constituency, every polling station. If they fail to do that, then they have failed in their mandate and such an election can be nullified. But their mandate ends there. When there is an organized militia to prevent people like Weda, who are willing to go to Diemu Primary School
to vote for
Weda? They block everything.
I think
now listen, let me finish.
This one I have to cut in. I will let you continue.
Let the lawyers speak.
There cannot be organized militia known by the government and nothing is done about it. And we are supposed to hold on. And also, by implication, calculating the percentage of voter turnout using counties 43 and leaving 4 means that IEBC has no intention of having elections in the 4 counties.
On that note, let's listen to Deputy President William Ruto. He was speaking to CNN on the same issue.
Correct.
There will be a final paper tally, maybe latest by tomorrow or tomorrow afternoon. And when we get there, the figures will speak for themselves. It is true, 9% of Kenya were denied the opportunity to vote. And they were denied the opportunity to vote because of violence sponsored by our competitor in his region, where citizens were denied the chance to vote by organized militia that ensured that election officials and election materials never made their way to polling stations. And then they want to allege that the people of that region did not want to vote. If it is true that the people of that region did not want to vote, let them remove the militia. Let them allow ballot papers and ballot boxes and election officials into polling stations, and let us see whether Kenyans in that region will vote or not.
Do not participate in any way in the sham election. 2. Convince your friends, neighbors, and everyone else not to participate. Instead, you advise Kenyans who value democracy and justice to hold vigilant prayers away from polling stations or just stay at home.
Okay. Okay, so on one hand, you have the Deputy President said there's an organized militia that ensured this election did not take place. Correct. But on the other hand, you have Raila Odinga a day before the election asking his people, please stay home.
Yes.
So where's the militia coming from?
Now, let me tell you one. Raila Odinga asked his people to abstain from voting. So that
stay at home.
And stay at home. Ruto himself knows that there is some militia somewhere there, organized by someone, sponsored by someone. He's the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. He has not arrested this someone. And he's coming telling the international community that somewhere in Kenya, there is some militia that only me know about that has prevented some Kenyans from voting. And then when you go, IEBC tells that they are not going to calculate the percentage of voter turnout using the whole of Kenya. They are going to leave that section that the Deputy President said militias stop people from voting. Where is this militia? Can he produce the leader? Because he seems to know the leader, he knows the sponsors. And the courts are still working, the police is still working. Arrest the leader of this militia and take him to court.
I am one person that my village mates know is an Urban and voted for Urban on the 8th of August. Okay. And they know I would still go back to DMO Primary School and vote for Urban. What they made sure was that the polling materials could not reach DMO Primary School and people like Weda would not reach. And to send a clear message to the likes of Weda, they went into my home, dosed my house in paraffin, burnt a vehicle parked there,
no,
and they said,
so sorry about that.
Now, I'm not lamenting, because God Almighty will release other better things, glad tidings.
Okay.
What I'm saying, the militia is there. You saw them. They're on the road. You could go
militia?
to Migori. They are there.
Is that the right term?
No, let me tell you.
Please, let me finish.
Okay, finish very quickly. Because I must tell Kenyans how you burnt your own old car that has been in the garage for very many years. Then you come telling Kenyans that your car was burnt.
Listen.
Who will burn a car of 4 million and come and tell people God will provide?
Okay, now,
you burnt your own. Why wasn't the house burnt?
I'm a rich man. Now, let me explain.
Hey, okay.
The NRM can tell us how they describe these people. Maybe we don't know the word, so we call them militia. But they may have other words for their various troops that are operating in those regions. But the fact is, the 4 counties of Lowland, we were prevented through violence.
In other words, you did not get the chance to vote.
Yes, but otherwise, if you open it, if just you heeded Jacom's general's advice, that just stay at home, you would have seen and walk in there and vote. Even if Uhuru came up with 10 votes, it would have been done. But somebody is under the misapprehension that if you prevent voting in some constituencies, then it will not meet the constitutional threshold, and therefore the Supreme Court will nullify it. What they don't know is that you cannot benefit from your own mistake. You do not perpetrate illegalities. Then you go to court and say, I want to benefit.
Linda,
the Supreme Court will not listen.
Okay.
So,
Linda,
remove this militia. Even tomorrow, we will vote.
Having said that, we are also not going to allow Jubilee to benefit from their own failure to stop these militias they know about from preventing people from voting. If they knew about this militia, they knew their financial, they knew their why did they remove them so that the people of Migori and Kisumu can vote?
Are they financed? We didn't know that. Now
no, it's Ruto who has said.
He didn't talk about financing. He just talked about
you can't organize about anything without financing them.
Okay, so way out of this, because both of you represent the two sides. We are waiting for Wafula Chebukati to give the final word on this. This country is highly polarized, divided right down the middle. And I'd like us to listen to Raila Odinga. He was also speaking to CNN on the way forward. Could we listen to that?
We have our alliance, which is what we call the National Super Alliance. It is remain a super alliance. It has got branches. One, we have got the parliamentary wing, because you know we have got members of the National Assembly and members of the Senate. Now we are creating another wing, which is the resistance movement. This is basically going to be involved in civil disobedience, civil resistance, not an armed resistance. So we are going to use all the legal and constitutional means to put pressure on this government to do what we want them to do.
Okay, so that is Raila Odinga talking on how exactly they intend to sort this out. There's another one where he's also talking about the kind of conversation that he is willing to have with the President Uhuru Kenyatta. Do we have that? Could we listen to the second bite, please?
By the vice chair, and that vice chair, she is purported to be the deputy national returning officer, which is illegal.
Okay, so the specific thing that I was looking for is where Raila Odinga says that the only conversation he will have with Uhuru Kenyatta is a conversation that will ensure that the country has another election in the next 90 days, free, fair, credible. Whether is that the way to go, that the two leaders sit down and is that even feasible, another election in the next 90 days?
I think what Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga should know is that the only person that can take us to any election is the Supreme Court. So if the Supreme Court orders, we'll go back. The other way that you go back for election is through a referendum. That referendum requires that you have a president who, as President Uhuru today, the constitutional provisions, he cannot appoint judges, he cannot appoint commissioners. There are certain things he cannot do until the elections are done. So these elections, if they are not challenged, President Uhuru will be sworn in. But for the sake of the country, the divide, the big divide that we have can only be resolved through the two of them, a political solution, which is President Uhuru and Honorable Raila sitting down. And that would only work if Honorable Raila Odinga also does not come with irreducible minimums. He comes for the sake of the country. And if you look at his face, and those of us who have known him for long and in the struggle, when Wakena Wedu were in Kanu, he is not a man who would want to see blood in this country.
Oh, okay.
He's a man that when blood starts flowing, he'll be the first to say, no, there's no need. So I know that after this, it would be a lot easier for them to sit down and look at the way forward. How do you accommodate the others? This winner takes it all constitution also is part of the problem.
Yeah,
imagine 6 million votes, and then you are going in the system. Honorable Raila Odinga and Honorable Kalonzo are lucky that one was a vice president and then one was a prime minister. So they have the trappings of the old office. If a Kuru court was to get 5 million today, and he loses. Imagine he goes back to the streets as a civilian. Controlling 6 million, civilian. That is the winner takes it all. We will have to relook at this part.
That is part of the solution now.
That's part of the solution.
Okay, I need to
and then another one, maybe these are the people, Honorable Kalonzo, Wetangula, Mudavadi, then they can be accommodated in cabinet. And it is where we accommodate Jacom. If he accepts to take a big seat in the U.S., we will back him. And then the country moves.
I think Andros Sweda is getting it wrong. There is no winner takes it all constitution in Kenya. The take it all that is in Kenya is the greed by the people in power at any moment. Kenya is the only country I know where we have even laws demanding that public appointments be certain percentages from each tribe. These are things that were put in place to bring equity and equitable distribution of the national cake. But some people have decided as soon as they have the national cake, even if they have it through this system that we are seeing they are having it with now, they will exclude certain people from certain communities from this national cake.
Solution. I need to wrap up.
Before I even go to that solution, I need to explain to Kenyans why these people are insisting on paper results and not using the electronic system. Because paper results are easy to manipulate, like what you saw that MP, I think she's called Mrs. Wahome, dealing with insisting that the returning officer must change these things. So that is why they are insisting they don't want to use the KM's kit because...
To be fair, there are two sides to that story. There are two sides.
Let me just say my side. I saw Kositan here saying his side without anybody to challenge him.
Okay.
So even me, I need to say our side. Our side is these people manipulate the results from the polling centers and then they destroy the electronic ones that have been put there. Today, Chebukati should have shown us what the KM's kit transmitted to the National Tallying Center. There are only 3.5 million people who turned out to vote. This 7.5 has been said by people who cannot back it up. I can back up my 3.5 million using the KM's kit. They bring it, I will show them.
Okay.
Yes.
I think let Kenyans know this.
30
Even
seconds,
if
whether.
the turnout was only 1 million, thank God it is 7 point something, and then RM is saying 3. Even if it was only 1 million, if President Uhuru got 50% plus 1 and 25% in 25 of the counties, he has won. These other circumlocutions and gymnastics and all this sabratle, it will not work. Either the Supreme Court rescues you or we swear President Uhuru in the next 30 days.
Okay, I need to wrap this up, people. Thank you so much. Owidi Odoyo and Ambrose Weda, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. 1 hour of just looking at everything that has been happening in the country. I appreciate your time. So Yvonne Okoromatole is up next with Checkpoint in the next 10 minutes. Good night. I'm Linda Obutu.
Thank you, Linda.